Welcome to DB2 PureScale GUI Install. Let us have a quick look on the various aspects being covered in this presentation. Firstly, where and how to find the setup and hardware requirements of PureScale, architecture of the setup used in this demo and having a high-level feel of it, initiating the GUI Launchpad and proceeding towards the completion of install. The prerequisites of PureScale can be easily found in DB2 Info Center, wherein all the details of supported hardware, software and network considerations are listed. Let me give you a basic understanding of the setup we used in this demo. To begin with, we are having two machines, machine 1 and machine 2, which are having 4 LPARs each. A single LPAR can act as only a member, only a CF, or both a member and CF. All these members and CFs communicate among each other using high-speed interconnect InfiniBand cables managed by a QLogic InfiniBand switch. HCA cards act as bridging devices between the InfiniBand cables and the physical machines. We are also having an external SAN storage device which is in turn divided into several hardware disks. Each setup requires two hardware disks, one for the clustered file system and the other for the tiebreaker. These hardware disks are managed by a SAN switch which helps them to interact with the LPARs as well. From a higher level, you can see there are two PowerHA PureScales, one primary and one secondary, which is recommended for an ideal setup. The number of members can vary from 1 to 128. All these members and CFs share a common database storage and are connected using InfiniBand cables. One of the important conditions is that all the members and CFs being used in this setup should be configured using OpenSSH with public key-based authentication and passwordless root access. If you are planning to use existing users as instance and fenced users, you have to make sure that the username, user ID, group ID, and the path of user's home directory should be unique across all the hosts. You can also create new instance and fenced users using GUI. Now that you have a basic understanding about the setup and architecture of PureScale, let us see how to kickstart the GUI install. The GUI Launchpad can be brought up by running DB2 setup command, which can be followed by -L and -D options for log entries creation. When the Launchpad comes up, it automatically checks for the installation prerequisites and detects the preset environmental variables and configuration settings. On the left navigation pane, if you click on Install a product, on the right you can see a button named Install New, clicking on which the panel starts coming up. The first panel you'll come across is the Welcome panel. On clicking the View Features button on this panel, you can find the list of all the features that are getting installed with PureScale. On each and every panel, there is a button named Help, clicking on which you'll get all the information about the panel and how to proceed with it. Next comes the License Agreement panel. You need to accept the license in order to proceed with the install. Next comes the Installation Action panel. You have three options on this panel. Choosing the first option will help you install the product but will not save any settings in a response file. On choosing the second option, all your installation settings will be saved in a response file but the product will not be installed. This response file can later be used for silent install. The silent install using response file can be done using the same DB2 setup command with -R option. The third option, which is also the default option, helps you install the product as well as save all your settings in a response file. The field that you can see below is to enter the response file path. By default, it is in /temp directory, or else you can edit this field and enter your own path for the response file. Next comes the installation directory panel. The default location will be in /opt. The installation path should be valid and writable on all the hosts that are involved in the setup. It should also have enough installation space, which is displayed as space required on this panel. The instance setup panel again has two options. One is to create the instance along with the installation, which is selected by default, and the second one is to skip its creation now. In this case, only filesets will be laid down and all the panels related to instance creation will be skipped. On the instance owning user panel, the default choice will be to create a new user, in which case you just need to enter a password. There is also an option to choose existing user, wherein you have to enter the existing user's name. In either of the cases, as we discussed earlier, the condition is that the username, user ID, group ID, and the user's home directory should be unique across all the hosts involved in the setup. The same is the case with the Fence user panel too. The DB2 cluster file system panel and host list panel are two newly introduced panels for the version v9.8. As we discussed earlier, we need to give path of two external hardware devices, one for the GPFS and one for the tiebreaker. On the host list panel, the details of install initiating host will be displayed by default. If you want to add a new remote host, you just need to click Add button and enter the name of a valid host. On clicking OK, several factors like enough installation space, validity of instance and fenced users, SSH configuration, etc. will be validated. If the validation fails for any reason, proper error message will be displayed. In that case, you can make corrections according to the error message displayed and click on OK, which starts revalidating the host again. Here, I am adding 4 hosts, which is minimum recommended number for an ideal setup. If you want to remove a host from the host list panel, you need to select the host and click on Remove button. The instance settings displayed at the bottom of the panel tell you which host is selected as preferred primary CF, preferred secondary CF, and the number of DB2 members. By default, the preferred primary and secondary CFs will be selected automatically. If you want to make any changes to these settings, you can click on Advanced button, where you have an option to manually select the preferred primary as well as preferred secondary CFs. You can also develop a single host as both member and CF. Some more instance settings can be changed using other tabs. Last comes the summary panel, where the settings we have made in all the previous panels will be displayed. On clicking Finish button, installation begins. Finally, after the successful completion of install, you can see the message that setup has completed successfully. The post-install steps help the user to know what he can do after the installation. You can also see the log file and remote host status. Thank you and have a nice day.